If you're in the leadership development space and lead organizations as a part of your 9 to 5, I want you to pause and consider this question. How much money do you spend on the development of your people? Moreover, the more prevalent question should be, how much money should you expend on this purpose? The Association for Talent Development says that in 2023, the state of the industry was as follows. Organizations spent an average of $1,220 per employee, which was slightly less than the year before. Some employees still view their training as a reward, and the impact it has on their satisfaction in the office rather than the impact it may have on their performance or work product. In terms of the employers and managers, some still send their employees to training as a substitute or supplement for performance reviews or giving feedback. By comparison, in 2023, companies spent an average of $954 per employee on forms of virtual training, which included virtual reality and other forms of technology training. The amount of money spent on training varied by company size, with smaller companies spending the most and larger companies saving their pennies and only spending the least amount if their internal training methods weren't enough. This data is according to my friends at the Training Magazine. For my friend Damon Lambie, he has spent the last 3 years assisting organizations in training their employees from a virtual standpoint. As the CEO of Learn It, a live learning platform which has upskilled more than 2 million people. Drawing from his experience from his previous baseball career, Damon brings an athletic and athlete's perspective to leadership. Through his journey, Lambie says that he's gained invaluable insights into what helps organizations grow, how great leaders learn, why Learn It all companies outpace their competitors time after time. He's also a 2-time best-selling author and the host of the podcast, the Learn It All podcast. And he joined me this week to discuss leadership, athletics, and how organizations can use his platform to promote a welcoming, productive, and inclusive culture. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to learn about your experience in entrepreneurship, sports, and everything in between. Happy Thursday to you, my friend, and thank you so very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely no. My friend, I know that you're the CEO and founder of Learn It, which is a live learning platform that has successfully upskilled over 2 million people, my friend. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about the platform yourself and what makes it so fabulous. My friend, what are your thoughts there?
So my thoughts there is yes, Learn It is a live learning platform. We're coming on 30 years, Kevin. I know that's probably hard to imagine that I've been around this place for 30 years.
You look like you're 25, I promise, okay?
That's what I was hoping you were going to say.
Uh,
And we focus, we do mostly virtual instructor-led training and B2B. And customers turn to us when they want to level up the skills for their new managers. Let's say you go from being an individual contributor to a new manager, and you don't have the skills necessary, and need to learn how to have difficult conversations or communicate better, or just run one-on-ones or learn how to coach. Or companies turn to us when they're rolling out new technologies like Microsoft Office, and they need to upgrade all their skills for their team. And so we work with them and we design learning programs to help them reach their outcomes.
Absolutely. And David, I'm curious to ask you about the evolution of technology and really getting people's attention on the advantages of technology and how it's made the Learn It platform easier to understand and use and educate the masses, my friend. Well, what are your thoughts there?
My thoughts are so we started off as a computer training company back in the 90s, and we taught mostly just Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint and everything. And then we kind of evolved into an overall company that delivers both human skills and technical skills. And I would say over the last 10 years, the evolution of technology has just been incredible, right? I mean, now we can run our 10 or 15 years we've been able to run classes virtually like this. And now with AI, we're adding in a lot of things like AI habit coaches and prompts. And it not only makes the training more sticky, so it's easier for people to retain. It also makes the experience better when it comes to being able to log in, get access to your records, and all of the above. So I think it's been a very exciting time, and it's a situation where you have to grow and learn and adapt. You can't just keep doing the same things, year after year. You have to continually grow and evolve.
Yeah, and David, I know that you had a previous career as a baseball player, my friend, and as an old sports reporter, I'm always excited when I can interview athletes. I'm curious, how does your athletic experience and perspective give you sort of your lens on leadership, my friend? How do you think your journey provided you valuable insights and what organizational growth is today when it comes to great leaders, my friend? Tell me your thoughts there.
So I think that's a great question. A very short version of my baseball career was I was a high school All American. I played all kinds of sports before, but I was a high school All American. And my senior year in high school, I had my first big choice. I got drafted by the Atlanta Braves in the 13th round, and or do I go to college? So I ended up going to college and for Pepperdine University. And Kevin, it was my first really one of the great leadership lessons I learned. My coach there, who I'm still in touch with, he had this moonshot vision that Pepperdine, this little school, was going to win the College World Series. And he got everybody behind that vision. He built this great team. I unfortunately got hurt and left. But the year they left the College World Series, the year I left, they won the College World Series. So it showed you that you can set moonshot visions, you build a team that works together, and accomplish those goals. That was a great learning lesson for me. I went on to Arizona State. I hit a home run in the College World Series. My wife likes to say that's my glory days. And I was ready to get drafted again for the third time. I also was drafted by the Yankees at one point. At 22 years old, though, I didn't get drafted. And so I wasn't sure that I had any transferable skills. I always identified as a baseball player. And what I look back and learn now from all that time was that it's kind of like an athletic education. My sports career taught me so many key things, everything from being competitive, how to collaborate, discipline, perseverance, all of these great skills is really, I think, what's helped me become a good leader. I think there's always room for improvement, but it's been a game changer for me, and I'm really fortunate for the my sports career and what I learned both on the field and from the coaches that I played for.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, I'm curious based on your last answer to ask you to define what do you think it means to have a competitive edge in business, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
As far as having a competitive edge in business, as an individual, I think it means to get out there and continuously learning and growing. And right now, I think that a competitive edge, a big one for your audience, is to become an expert in AI. I think you're going to set yourself apart if you can really learn to leverage AI. If you want to bury your head in the sand and say, "Hey, I'm going to avoid it," you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to people who are experts in AI. So that's one competitive advantage. For organizations, if you're going to have a competitive advantage, you need to have a value prop that makes you unique in some way. There's got to be a reason why somebody's going to choose your product, your organization over everybody else's. And whether it's you're selling water or you're selling training, there's always ways to find a value prop that can make yourself different.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about value propositions, David. I'm going to share just a little bit about myself. So, David, at the age of 9, I was told by a doctor that I wouldn't be able to walk for the duration of my life because I was born with a form of cerebral palsy that restricts the amount of oxygen that it gets to my legs. And when I graduated college with a sports journalism degree, Bonnie, I was rejected 10 consecutive times by news directors who told me because of my disability, they refused to hire me, Bonnie, and because they didn't think that they could support me as an organization in the newsroom, my friend. So I have made it my professional mission as a professional speaker to talk to organizations about the positive benefits of hiring folks with disabilities. So we've talked a lot about competitive edges today. So I'm curious, in your mind, what does hiring folks with disabilities do for a competitive edge for an organization, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Well, first of all, I really admire you, Kevin, right? Because you didn't take no for an answer. Organization after organization that turned you down, you just kept going, and look what you've been able to do with your career, even given your circumstance. Now, to answer your question about what do I think when it comes to hiring people who have disabilities. 7 years ago, I was playing basketball and I started to see that I was misjudging the ball, and same thing happened to me in tennis. And long story short, I was diagnosed with a progressive retina disease that causes me to lose most of my central vision. And it's been tough. And so if the definition of somebody having a disability is not to be able to do what you've always been able to do, like I can't drive anymore and I can't play catch with my kids. And it's not something I don't let it stop me from doing anything. Right. And so I think that, and I do a lot of speaking with Foundation Fighting Blindness, and I go out there and I talk about that there's a lot of people out there with low vision and definitely other disabilities that you should give them a chance, because there's a lot of people with low vision who are out of work where that if you brought them on, you made some tweaks and adjustments to their situation, they can be great contributors. And as for my organization, I don't, it doesn't come up all the time in conversations that, I have a hard time seeing, and there's certain things I can't do. But everybody on my team is aware of it, a lot of my clients and friends. And I think, being vulnerable and sharing stories like that, like you and I have, I think it allows others to feel open to being able to share situations that they go through. And because of that, it creates another competitive advantage because people are more bought in and they feel safe and they feel like they can share. And yeah, so it's been I wasn't born with it like you were. It's something I've only experienced for the last 7 years. And my really goal in life, Kevin, is I've got two little kids, a 7 year old and a 3 year old who may end up with what I have. They may end up with that. But I want to lead by example, and I want to show them and other people who have to deal with low vision that you can have a great life and you can be very successful in the business world as well.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And just building on that point, I've got one final follow-up before I move on to my next question. I'm curious, how do you define, Damon, the term competitive resilience, both in life and in business, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Competitive resilience, both life and in business, to me is like in baseball. If you strike out or get out 7 out of 10 times, you got to dust yourself off, get back up, learn from your mistakes, and do it again. That's what competitive resilience is. And in personal life and in the workplace, we only have one life, so we need to make the best of it. Things aren't always going to go as planned, but work within whatever constraints we have, leverage the network we have, and keep getting up and making the best out of every day.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And now we've reached the point in our conversation where I want to know about your two best-selling books and your podcast, my friend, called Learn It All Podcast. What do people need to know, my friend?
Well, thanks for letting me get the word out there, Kevin. My podcast is the Learn It All podcast, and I bring on great leaders who have all different kind of stories from all different backgrounds, and we talk about their journey. I've really enjoyed it. I've only done it for a year, but it's a great learning opportunity and get to meet great people. I've got two best-selling books. One is called Good Decisions Equal Success. I co-wrote it with my good friend and business partner, Candace Porter. It's about making decisions personally and professionally. And then I wrote a book about my career called The Learn It All Leader. And we talk about the mindset of a Learn It All leader and practical things actionable items that you can do to implement some of the things we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, based on your 3 decades running, learning, and in business, I'm wondering the top 3 things you've learned about organizational growth and building a thriving organizational culture. What are your thoughts there?
Three things that I learned is number one, I think the most successful organizations are a people first organization. I think if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers, who will at the end of the day take care of your shareholders if you have it. So, people first organization. You got to always be adaptable because times are changing. So you got to be able to be open minded and flexible. And I'd say number three is, do your best to do right by your customer. They don't always have to be right all the time, but I think you want to do your best to take care of them and help them meet whatever opportunities and outcomes they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And you talk about making good decisions in one of your books, my friend. So, what are the key principles to really making a good fundamental decisions in business and in life? What are your thoughts there?
I would there's a lot of things you want to avoid when it comes to making decisions, being irrational or emotional. First and foremost, make sure you're making a decision on the root cause and not just solving a symptom. And when it comes to business, I think it's important to not be afraid to ask others for help. Be humble enough and say, hey, this is a big decision. Let me run some ideas by you. And get some feedback. And at the end of the day, if you're the one who has to make the decision, get some feedback, think about the different options. And then if you have, like Jeff Bezos would say, if you have 70% of the facts, don't let decision paralysis hit you. Go forward, make that decision. Hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, learn from it and then go forward next time.
Yeah, and David, I'm also, there's a sign in my office upstairs, Damon, that says that life is a constant game of learning because, it's my view that when you stop learning, that's the day you die, my friend. So I'm curious to ask you to define the concept of continual learning, my friend, and continuous learning. What is the idea of constantly being a learner mean to you? What are your thoughts there?
My thoughts are, in my book, I talk about the difference between being a learn it all and a know it all. A know it all is somebody who has all the answers, they have it all figured out, and I think you get left behind and you'll get passed by. A learn it all is somebody, Kevin, who's curious, open to ideas, and constantly wanting to learn. Now, sometimes people say, well, you say learn it all, Damon. It's just learn, learn, learn all the time. No, somebody told me a great quote one time that learning without doing is treason. So you got to take some of the learnings that you have, or a lot of them, and actually execute on them, right? So, if you're reading a book or you're listening to a podcast, if you learn some great actionable tips in there, you got to think to yourself, how can I apply this to my life? And so that is what continuous learning is to me. I think that as a father and as a leader of an organization, or if you're a sports coach, I think you owe it to yourself and to your team to constantly be learning because, like you mentioned earlier, if you want to keep that competitive edge, you got to be relevant and know what's going on around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of my other mottos in life, David, is that a life is a constant game of networking. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on how to form meaningful, impactful, and productive relationships, both in life and in business. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
If you want to, develop long-lasting, meaningful relationships, my recommendation, what I found is you want to be able to give more. You want to have the mindset of giving more than you're actually looking to receive. In the sense, what I mean by that is be don't look at people as what can I get from them, but more of like how can I help them? How can I serve them? And when you do that, when you're looking to help others, it's reciprocal and you'll get back from them. And so I think it's important to go out, have a broad range of friends, mentors, and make it a two-way relationship, which I think is really important. Don't always just looking out like, what am I going to get out of this? How can I help other people as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I'm also curious to ask you about the growth mindset from personal development and business standpoint, my friend, because the idea of constant growth and business development can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people. So when we look at business growth and potential for entrepreneurs, how do you define the idea of personal and professional growth?
Well, if you look at the growth mindset, what I like to say, and whether you're a salesperson or you're my 7-year-old daughter, focus more on the process than the results, right? You don't have to be perfect. You just want to keep getting better, you know, every day, right? And sometimes things aren't going to go exactly as you planned. So again, you want to say, I not yet. Like, okay, I didn't win that deal yet, but I'm going to figure out what it takes me to do. If I lose this time, I'm going to find out what I could have done differently next time. So growth mindset to me and professional growth all comes back again to, mastering some specific skills yourself and learning from your mistakes and learning from others.
Yeah, and Darren, to that point, we talked about learning earlier and being a constant learner, but what do you think it means and what sort of advantage does come from having a curious mindset both in life and in business? What are your thoughts, Bon?
So from a personal standpoint, I'm not. People will say, "Hey, Damon's somebody you could drop into any party, any situation, and he'll find people to speak to or get along with." And Kevin, that's really because I've decided that you could learn something from everybody, right? And there's somebody who knows a topic better than you do, and if you can stay curious and be open minded and just kind of learn, you could really evolve. And what I've also found from the professional side of things is that the best leaders are always curious. They're always looking for ways to do things differently and better and innovate, across the board. So it's like that the term, this is how he's always done it. You just get rid of that statement, right? And you're always looking like, how can I evolve? How can I get better? What can we do differently to both help my employees, but also serve our customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said that great leaders aren't born or made, my friend. They are constantly in the process of creating and recreating themselves to be the best versions of themselves, my friend. So tell me, why do you hold that philosophy, and how has it served you well over the years, my friend?
Well, I would say I have that philosophy because I was never a very studious person. My wife probably doesn't like me saying that, but in college I studied baseball more than anything, and when I eventually became the CEO of Learn It, I realized that if I was going to be successful, I had to continuously learn, grow, and develop. And so, for your listeners out there and everybody else, if I can do it, you can do it. And you can be a great leader, and leadership can be, a great parent, a great coach. It doesn't have to mean running a 100-person team. But in order to be a great leader, you got to be open to the idea that you got to be continuously evolving and growing and not being stagnant.
Yeah, so to that point, what are the three questions you think leaders should constantly ask themselves to really evaluate whether they're connecting with their employees?
Do my people are my Am I communicating enough to my people, right? Am I being transparent enough in that communication, and what else can I do to serve them and help them, give them the tools and resources they need to be successful in their role?
Yeah, absolutely. And David, I'm also curious to ask you about, the advancement of technology versus, the manual labor that humans provide. How do you think we can strike the balance between the two to make sure that people still have jobs to pay the bills, but they can enjoy the fruits of the labor of the advancement of technology? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I don't have a crystal ball to see that far in the future, but here's what I do know is that in the past three industrial revolutions, people are always concerned that everybody was going to be out of a job, and it ended up creating more jobs. And so what I'm hoping is that the same thing happens moving forward, and that the technology and AI and everything is going to just continue to make the world a better place. Find ways to cure cancer. Self-driving cars that can help people like me. Automating tasks to free people up to do work that is help them focus on higher level work. So I think that yes, we obviously need to be a little concerned. It could take away a ton of jobs, but I'm going to remain positive and think that the net effect over the next several decades is going to be positive.
Yeah, and as a former sports reporter, I would be remiss to not ask you where your passion for sports comes from, and where your sports rooting interest lies these days, my friend.
I would say my passion for sports came originally from my dad. My dad was my best friend, my idol. Unfortunately, I lost him to cancer about 12 years ago. He was a huge sports fan, and I just kind of followed in his footsteps on everything around there. And then all my buddies growing up were athletes. And yeah, I'm a San Francisco guy, so I love the Giants, 49ers, and even the Oakland A's were okay, and Golden State Warriors. And I'm not as involved in sports as I was before, but I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, so I'm on the local board of directors for Little League. For both of them are playing, and so now my sports have gone more from seeing who's going to win the national championship in college football to making sure we recruit enough great kids for the T-ball team. But I Want to add to that for all your listeners out there. I think sports are just wonderful, and you don't need to be a Division One baseball player like me. If you have kids at all ages, get them involved. Have them play tennis. Have them play golf. Have them play lacrosse. I think that sports are a wonderful way for kids to pick up skills, make other friends, and learn how to be, like you mentioned many times today, to be competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, David, I've got two questions left for you. And I'm always curious to ask parents about raising kids today in today's society, my friend. So tell me about the rewards, the challenges of raising kids today, and what brings you the most joy from being a parent. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Well, I think that's my favorite question you've asked so far. No, I loved all your questions, Kevin. I got started as a dad later in life. I'm 52 and I have a 7-year old and I have a 3-year old, and my priorities have really changed a lot over the years. And I would say that there's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for those two little ones. And I just get so much joy and exhaustion from them because they're exhausting. And but I just love watching them grow and evolve. And I just want to be the best role model possible. I'm really fortunate to have a wonderful wife who does a great job as a role model on her side. I'm very fortunate that I grew up in a family with 3 siblings and wonderful parents. And I just hope I'm as good of a parent as my parents were, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. And your kids keep you young at heart, I hope, right?
They do. They do. You better believe it.
Absolutely, my friend. And finally, David, I'm curious to ask you if I threw you a lifetime achievement party and I asked your best friend, your wife, or the people who knew you best to come up to give you a toast at the end of your life, my friend, what do you think you would want them to say about your life and your legacy, my friend?
I would want him to say that Damon was a good guy. He always kept his word, and that the work he did at Learn It helped develop amazing future leaders.
Absolutely, my friend. And for anyone that wants to get involved with Learn It or contact you directly, what's the best way they can do that?
What I'd like you to do is check out the Learn It All podcast. I really enjoy that. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Damon Lemby, and you can go to learnit.com is my website. And if any of your listeners or Kevin, you find a class you want to take, send me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll give you a free coupon to take a free $250 class, whether it's in Excel or emotional intelligence or any of the above. But you got to reach out to me to let me know you heard it on your show.
Well, my friend, it's all about continual positive engagement, isn't it?
I really believe so. Keeps us young, Kevin.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me about education, learning, sports, and everything in between, my friend. I think you're doing terrific work with the Learn platform, and it was a real privilege for me to have a chance to sit down and talk with you this afternoon. So I want to thank you for your time and for answering my questions. It's most appreciated.
I want to say it was an honor to be here. You're an inspiration to me, and just keep doing what you're doing.